Congratulations, pioneers. You know what's wild? While everyone's losing their minds refreshing price charts and posting rocket emojis, Pi just did something this week that 99% of people completely missed. And here's the crazy part. 6 months from now, you're gonna kick yourself if you don't understand what just went down. Hello, Pi Network pioneers. I'm Nathan, and before I reveal what Pi quietly pulled off this week that changes the entire game, let me give a massive shout out to our incredible global family. Whether you're watching from Nigeria, Papua New Guinea, the United States, India, the Philippines, Canada, Kenya, or literally anywhere else on this planet, I'm pumped to break this down with you. Real quick, hit that subscribe button right now and smash the notification bell so you never miss a Pi Network update. And drop a comment saying Pi Network to the moon with your country and flag emoji. Let's flood these comments and show the world how massive this pioneer community really is. All right, here's what nobody's talking about. This week, Pi didn't announce a Binance listing. They didn't drop some crazy price prediction. They didn't even hint at open mainnet. Instead, they did something way more important, something that honestly might be the smartest move I've seen in crypto all year. But before I tell you what it is, you need to understand why most people are going to completely ignore it, and that's exactly why those same people will be crying in 6 months while others are celebrating. Stay with me, because what I'm about to show you separates the pioneers who retire early from the ones who sell at the absolute worst time possible. Let me ask you something real. Have you ever wondered why some crypto projects shoot up to $1, $5, even $20, and then crash back down to basically nothing in just a few months? Here's what most people think. Bad luck, whales manipulating, market conditions. But that's not it. The real reason is way simpler and way scarier. They built hype without building infrastructure. They got the fireworks without the foundation. And when reality showed up, the whole thing fell apart like a house of cards. Pi is doing the exact opposite, and what happened this week proves it beyond any doubt. Now, before I break down the actual moves Pi made, I need you to understand something that most people completely miss about blockchain projects. See, everyone thinks slow means weak. They think if nothing's pumping, nothing's happening. But that's not what's going on with Pi at all. What's happening is something called strategic positioning, and honestly, it's probably the only reason Pi will still exist in 5 years, while 90% of today's trending coins are completely forgotten. But here's where things get uncomfortable, because what Pi did this week exposes a truth about crypto that most projects desperately don't want you to see. I'll explain what I mean in just a second, but first, let me show you the actual moves they made. First move, DEX pairing improvements. Now, I know that sounds super technical and boring, but hang on, because what that actually means is huge. Decentralized exchanges are where real trading happens without some company controlling everything. When Pi improves how it pairs with other cryptocurrencies on these platforms, they're not just adding some random feature, they're making Pi more liquid, more accessible, and more connected to the bigger crypto world. That's not hype, that's real infrastructure that matters. Think about it like this. Imagine trying to use money that only works at one single store. Pretty useless, right? Now imagine that same money suddenly works at 10 stores, then 50 stores, then hundreds. That's exactly what DEX pairing does for Pi. It increases where you can actually use it, and the ability to use something is what gives any currency real long-term value. But here's where it makes me pause for a second. Why aren't more pioneers celebrating this news? Why is literally everyone still obsessed with Binance and Coinbase? The answer is honestly kind of depressing, because most people in crypto aren't actually investing, they're gambling. They want the quick flip, the overnight win, the Lambo in 6 months. And listen, if that's you, I'm not judging at all, but Pi might not be your project, and there's a specific reason why that I'll get to in just a moment that might actually change how you see everything. Because what Pi did next shows you exactly where their priorities really are. They improved something called liquidity ranking visibility. Again, sounds super boring on the surface, but here's what that means in normal English. Pi made it way easier for exchanges, developers, and big institutions to see actual real trading volume data. No fake numbers, no sketchy wash trading, just transparent, verifiable information about what's really happening. You know what that tells me? Pi's not trying to trick anyone. They're not pumping up fake numbers to create artificial excitement. They're showing the real ecosystem, even if it's still small right now, even if it's still growing and developing. And honestly, that takes serious guts in an industry where literally everyone fakes it until they make it. But let me hit you with something that might completely challenge how you're thinking about all of this. Most pioneers I talk to are frustrated. They're exhausted from waiting. They want action right now. And I totally understand that feeling. But what if the waiting isn't actually the problem? What if rushing everything would destroy the entire project? There's something Pi did this week that perfectly illustrates this point, and when you understand it, you'll see why patience might actually be your biggest advantage right now. Think about something called domain verification. This week, Pi rolled out way stronger verification processes for apps and merchants in the ecosystem. That means fewer scams, better trust, real legitimacy building up over time. Now stop and ask yourself this question. Would you rather have Pi rush to every major exchange tomorrow where scammers could flub the market with fake apps and phishing schemes that steal everyone's Pi? Or would you rather Pi take the necessary time to lock down security first so when it does go big, it's actually safe? I'll be completely honest with you. I don't love waiting either. I've got Pi sitting in my wallet just like you do. I've watched other coins pump like crazy while Pi stays quiet. I felt that FOMO. But when I zoom way out and look at what's actually being constructed here, I can't ignore the pattern I'm seeing. Slow, methodical, strategic. That's not weakness, that's strength under pressure. And there's a real-world example from this week that proves this approach is already working, but it's happening in places most people aren't even looking. I'll tell you exactly where in just a minute. Now here's something most people won't admit out loud. Merchant adoption is still pretty small. The ecosystem is still developing. If you're expecting some massive explosion of real-world usage today, you're going to be disappointed, no question. But if you're looking at trajectory, if you're looking at the direction this is heading, then what happened this week should actually get you excited. Not hyped, excited. There's a difference, and understanding that difference is everything.
Let me give you a concrete, real example. There's a small business owner in Southeast Asia who just integrated Pi payments into their online store this month. Not because Pi is worth $100, not because it's listed on every exchange, but because the infrastructure finally became stable enough to actually trust. The verification process worked smoothly. The transaction system held up under real conditions. And now that merchant is quietly building a customer base that uses Pi for actual purchases. That's just one single merchant, but it's proof of concept. It's real evidence that this ecosystem can actually function in the real world with real people making real transactions. And when that starts multiplying, when hundreds, then thousands of merchants see that it actually works, that's when organic growth begins. Not manufactured hype that disappears. Real adoption that compounds. But here's the part that genuinely makes me uncertain about everything. I honestly don't know if the average pioneer has the patience for this approach. I really don't. Because the truth is, most people want results faster than reality can possibly deliver. And if pioneers start panic selling because they expected life-changing money in 6 months, that could seriously hurt Pi's growth, even if literally everything else is perfectly on track. So, let me challenge you with a question right now that might be uncomfortable, but needs to be asked. Why are you actually here? Seriously, take a second and think about it. Are you here for a quick gamble? Or are you here for a long-term project that could actually change things? Because if you're gambling, Pi is absolutely going to frustrate you over and over. But if you're building, if you're genuinely believing in ecosystem expansion and the controlled mainnet approach, then this week should feel like validation, not fireworks or rocket ships, validation that the strategy is working. And there's one more thing Pi did this week that I think is absolutely critical to understand, and it reveals exactly where this is all heading next. They strengthened their developer support systems. More documentation, clearer guidelines, better tools for people building applications on the Pi platform. Now, why does that matter so much? Because developers are the ones who create the apps that give Pi actual utility. If developers can't build easily, the ecosystem completely stalls. But if Pi makes development smoother and more accessible, more apps launch, more merchants integrate those apps, more users engage with the platform, more value gets created. That's the flywheel effect. That's how ecosystems explode over time. Not from one single big announcement that everyone forgets about in a week, from 1,000 small improvements that compound and build on each other over months and years. But let's not pretend everything is perfect here, because it's absolutely not. There are still major questions Pi needs to answer. Open mainnet timeline, still unclear. Full KYC completion rates, still not transparent. Regulatory clarity in different regions, still uncertain. These aren't small issues you can just ignore. And honestly, the fact that Pi hasn't been fully transparent about specific timelines frustrates me too. I wish they'd give us more concrete information. But here's what I keep coming back to every single time I feel that frustration. Pi is operating in an environment where regulators are cracking down on crypto projects globally, where misinformation spreads faster than actual facts, where one wrong regulatory move could literally shut down the entire project overnight. So when I see Pi moving slowly, being extra cautious, prioritizing infrastructure over hype and quick wins, I don't see incompetence or delays. I see a survival strategy. I see a project that's trying to still be here in 5 years when others are long gone. But does that mean you should blindly trust everything and never question anything? Absolutely not. And here's exactly what you should be doing instead. You should question everything. You should stay informed about what's really happening. You should demand transparency from the team. But you should also recognize the massive difference between a project that's struggling to build something real and a project that's intentionally running some kind of scheme. And everything I've seen from Pi, every move, every update, every decision, points to the first category, not the second. They're building, not scheming. But that building process is slow and boring and doesn't create viral moments. Here's my honest final thought for you on all of this. This week wasn't about fireworks. It wasn't about price pumps or viral announcements that get everyone screaming. It was about foundations. And foundations are incredibly boring. They're slow, they don't generate headlines or trending hashtags, but they're the exact reason why some projects last an entire decade while others completely disappear within a year or two. So, if you're frustrated right now, I totally get it. If you're impatient and want things to move faster, I feel that too. But if you're willing to actually see what's being built here, if you're willing to give this ecosystem the necessary time to develop properly, then what happened this week should give you something important. Not hype that disappears tomorrow, but hope that builds over time. Because the pioneers who truly understand this, who recognize that real value takes time to create, who see infrastructure as way more important than instant gratification, those are the pioneers who are going to look back in a few years and realize they were early to something that actually mattered, something that lasted while everything else faded away. So, the smart step Pi took this week wasn't flashy, it won't make headlines. Most people will completely ignore it. But it was deeply strategic. And in the long run, strategy beats hype every single time. History proves this over and over in every market. So, here's the real question you need to answer for yourself. Are you building with Pi for the long term, or are you just waiting to cash out at the first pump? Because how you answer that question will determine absolutely everything about your experience moving forward. It'll determine whether you look back with regret or celebration. Stay patient, stay informed, keep securing the network, and remember, the real winners in crypto aren't the ones who chase every pump. They're the ones who recognize real building when they see it, even when it's boring, especially when it's boring.
This is Nathan, and I'll see you in the next one, Pioneers. Keep building.